Hawaii for the event that defines their sport. They have come seeking to make their own mark. And as always, to defeat an island ready to claim the week of body and mind. This is the pier at Kailua Kona, more than 2 hours before the start of the most important race in the sport of triathlon. And here in the darkness, a line is already formed near the registration tables. For all these athletes, a unique mixture of anxiety and excitement builds. Hi everybody, I'm Dan Hicks, and we welcome you to the 1994 Gatorade Ironman Triathlon. There is no such thing as a restful sleep the night before this race. And so, conceding victory to insomnia, they come to the Kailua Pier prematurely. After months and years of training, there is a need to complete the final items on a very long checklist. One last chance to feel some sense of control on a day which requires of all the competitors a leap into the unknown. A day that for many ends as it begins, in darkness. They rush through the gate, sunrise hours away, but the optimism of morning already prevails. Wrist bracelets, hot pink, identify the competitors. It's a hard-won credential, never a free pass. Paula Newby-Frazer, one more title means 7. More Ironman victories than any other man or woman. But a glance skyward suggests that even the favorite is hoping fate smiles upon her. Newby-Frazer's likely challenger is Karen Smyers, the '93 Rookie of the Year. But there is also lighthearted Wendy Ingram, a heavy pedal act on the bike. And so, the wondering begins. How much punishment for one precious moment of elation? Heart monitor wrapped tight to his chest, Paulie Kuru has the top number. There will be no number 1 in this race. It awaits Mark Allen's return. Does that determined stride mean something? You'd expect Greg Welch to be hungry after strange misfortune scratched him from last year's Gatorade Ironman. Jürgen Zach, the most accomplished cyclist, utterly contemptuous of easy riders. And welcome back, Dave Scott. Just what do you have left in that 40-year-old body? Can you dig down and rediscover that famous resolve? And what about those here seeking another kind of victory? Like 61-year-old Don Wildman, an American original. And Deb Foss, who trained between shifts at Alaska's Eielson Air Force Base. Age 71, the oldest female competitor. Here's Lynn Edwards, a late bloomer with a courageous heart. And Jim Ward, the youthful senior citizen of 77 who expects once again to finish what he starts. As does John Franks, the first to ever attempt these daunting distances while confined to a wheelchair. Sunrise draws near. Time for a final embrace, a good luck kiss. Time to complete the final items on a long checklist. At long last, it is just you and this island, and a race which promises hours of pain before that one precious moment of pleasure. Approaching 7 a.m., the competitors are now gathering for the swim. Last year, the King of Kona, Mark Allen, was among them. This year, taking a fatherhood sabbatical, he's part of our broadcast team and standing by at a favored place on the Kailua Pier.
I spent every race morning in this spot. It was always a final chance to find that place of calm inside, to gather the strength I'd need for the upcoming day. Every athlete here will face a deeply personal challenge, top contenders included. Last year, Germany's Jürgen Zach faded badly after a blistering pace on the bike. He must be wondering just how fast he can ride without sacrificing victory. Going fast isn't a problem for Australia's Greg Welch, but in this race of patience, an early start can mean disaster later on. Patience defines last year's second-place finisher Pauli Kiuru of Finland, but it still remains to be seen if he can abandon the pace dictated by his heart rate monitor and move into that realm of racing only emotions of the heart can take him. And the big question today, 40-year-old Dave Scott. By day's end, we'll all know if the memory of his 6 titles will give him the confidence he needs to conquer age and silence skeptics.
Now, minutes away from the start, let's join our other analyst in this race where athletes delicately balance time and punishment. Seaside, we go to Phil Liggett.
Despite the ever-increasing popularity of this sport, the Gatorade Ironman remains the one to win. It all begins with a 2.4-mile swim, often against the tidal currents of the Pacific Ocean. Then they change to the long-distance bike ride, 112 miles, often across barren wasteland. And then the survivors go into the 26.2 miles marathon, the full distance in what are the hottest conditions any sporting event can expect. For the stars of this day, they'll finish around about 3 o'clock in a time just over 8 hours. For many of them, they'll be happy just to finish by midnight. Now let's have a look at the route. The race takes place on the largest and most southern of the spectacular Hawaiian island chain. The race's base is the oceanside town of Kailua Kona, where the swim is from the pier. The bike course heads out to the quaint village of Harvey, where it turns and returns to Kona Surf. From here, the triathletes run back to Kailua Kona. Kailua Kona is the start and finish for the 2.4-mile swim, accomplished in a warm Pacific Ocean, but with a hazardous current. The aim is for around 50 minutes, the cut-off point, 2 hours and 15 minutes. The bike course is 112 miles of guaranteed heat and hills. From the start, Pay and Save Hill is a cruel reminder of what lies ahead, including the barren straits of the Queen K Highway. Harvey is the turn point, coming 52.6 miles in. It sits on the more settled part of this volcanic island, but any relief from the stark beauty is countered by the trades, usually headwinds on the return. It will take the best about 4.5 hours to reach Kona Surf, and for those who don't arrive until 5:30 in the afternoon, then disqualification will await. The full marathon distance of 26.2 miles leaves Kona Surf, descending then running out of the pit, before leaving the ocean behind for a while at Kailua Kona, bound for the cauldron of the Natural Energy Lab. Running back from here, the leaders will have one final chance to alter their fortune as the race descends towards the start-finish point used for the swim at least 8 hours earlier, and for some, it'll be 16 or more.
The sun has just revealed itself above the lip of the volcanic mountain Mauna Loa, and the race announcer has told the competitors to proceed toward the start line 50 yards from shore. Now, the mind empties. Eyes reveal nothing. There's a unity of spirit, shared tension. And one stands out. John Franks, determined to succeed, powered only by 2 burly arms. We'll return to the 18th Gatorade Ironman Triathlon after these words. Welcome back to the Gatorade Ironman Triathlon. Dan Hicks with 5-time champion Mark Allen, who's not competing this year. And Mark, early in the swim, how about this for a diverse lead pack? Russian Alek Roykasev, Australian Nick Croft, and University of Texas student James Bonney.
I'm not surprised to see Roykasev in the lead. He's one of triathlon's strongest swimmers. He won a half Ironman in blistering hot conditions earlier this year. But more likely, his role today will be that of tour guide on the swim rather than legitimate contender.
Inside of the leaders, number 4, Kenny Glah. Next to him, Dave Scott, very much in the chase and obscured in this frenzy of foam. Germany's Uta Mukel, who was the first woman out of the water last year, very well could be again.
The swimmers have exchanged lane lines and flip turns for clear blue water and coral. The swim is well underway and pre-race anxiety is finally gone. Thoughts are now focused on remaining calm while being thrashed by shoulders, elbows, and legs that are not your own.
In the rear, John Franks, swimming the backstroke exclusively, a small flotation device under his legs necessary to keep him lateral in the water. 9 years ago, Franks was in a motorcycle accident, his legs paralyzed. Then he refused to become an object of pity.
I think I'm making as best I can of a bad situation that I was thrust into, that I was unlucky enough to be a part of. I broke my back in November of 1985, and for some reason, unbeknownst to me, I decided that the Ironman was the hardest event I could think of and made a promise that I was going to get into shape and do this event.
John Franks, finally at the Gatorade Ironman, as real as it gets. And here's a bit of a surprise. Number 40 in the orange, defending women's champion newby-frazer with very good position early.
Last year, Paula was several minutes behind the lead women out of the water, and the energy it took her to catch them on the bike really cost her in the marathon. She's doing a great job of reversing that scenario this year.
In the orange cap, trouble for Karen Smyers. She's lost her goggles in this aquatic anarchy, so there's no protection against the sting of the salt water. And just ahead, number 41 in the orange, another contender, Sue Latshaw. She's lost her heart monitor. Irritating way to start this long, long day.
Laws of physics say no two objects can occupy the same space at the same time, and they're proving it again here. Even though it's a big ocean, the race pulls the athletes together. Each of the swimmers is fighting to gain the best line, trying to navigate the shortest course to the swim finish.
Nearing the halfway mark, you see a small lead pack, and in their wake, a slightly larger chase group that includes one of the men's favorites, Greg Welch.
Greg told me his strategy for the swim was to be out of sight, out of mind. He's in excellent position, managing to hide from Kiru, Scott, and Zach in the safety of the lead packs.
The turnaround boat, that marks 1.2 miles. The top swimmers still have another 25 minutes to go. The lead group is unchanged. Roykasev, Croft, Bonnie. The leader all the way so far, Roykasev, was second out of the water last year, his first Gatorade Ironman. He's living now in Florida after defecting not long ago from Russia. In America, it seems he's finally getting the chance to determine his potential.
Roykasev and the lead swimmers will almost round the second turnaround boat before the chase group hits the first. This leg is half over, and the athletes are beginning to think beyond the swim. They're realizing this is more than just a calm dip in the Pacific. They're taking a momentary mental pause before the race towards shore intensifies.
That's Roykasev using the backstroke to see his competition, then shifting quickly after finding out he's got plenty of company. Just behind, many of the top pros are finding themselves in the rinse cycle at the turnaround. Ahead, out of danger, short course specialist Mike Pigg is the caboose on the short train heading home.
Triathlon isn't technically a body contact sport, but number 40 in black and orange, Paula Newby-Frazer, is finding out otherwise. She's in the middle of this mess, taking some hits that might even rock George Foreman.
Not far behind, the pace setters. Dave Scott is having an excellent swim. A dynasty in the 80s, he's hoping to crush an old stereotype.
40 is that year that everyone looks like, you're going to break out the crutches, and you're now middle age, and what can you do? And I think it was the challenge that I didn't have a finality from the 89 year. When I crossed the finish line in second, and I was gravely disappointed. Just like any athlete, in hindsight, you always think you can go faster after you cross the finish line. So it was the challenge of trying to get back. And I wanted to go through that whole process to say, I want to get as fit as I possibly can be at 40 and see what I can do. And not be worried about what anyone else says. I want to do it for myself, and I want to see how far I can go.
Dave Scott taking a leap into the unknown, but with each certain stroke, his confidence builds. Back after this. The last strokes in the Pacific, the last moments of measuring yourself against the water. The pier, at last, is in view. The assault is about to begin. The mad transition from swim to bike, sea to highway. The first to arrive, the long, lean bodies of the top swimmers. Emerging, they fight to regain their equilibrium. It's the Russian Roykasev first, with the Texas swimmer Bonnie steps away. The race clock is at 49 minutes. And now the task, finding your focus. The swim leader has his gear. And only a minute behind, race co-favorite Greg Welch grabs his equipment bag in stride. He has had an excellent swim. Dripping, fidgeting, Roykasev rolls. While Welch, waterlogged, dresses haltingly. "51 minutes, 42 seconds. Germany's Mukel is the first woman out of the water. And for the moment, no other is in sight. Welch ascends the pay and save hill. Back at the transition, it's Scott, 11, with Chucky V as company. Middle age and Generation X in tandem. Number 2, Polly Kuru, is 46th. Not encouraging when you expect to finish number 1. His rival Welch hunkers down, already minutes ahead. Women's favorite, Newby-Frazer, is delayed by a problematic strap. But Wendy Ingram is dressed for success, at least for the moment, and she makes her exit from the pier a little more urgently. For her, it hasn't been a gold medal swim, and she knows it. Kuru at last on the road, now must climb back into the race. A unique, unsettling predicament for this top triathlete. Newby-Frazer sets off, helmet fastened, and no major worries yet. But Zach, 66th out of the Pacific, already confronts the fear of failing, and he must fly. Karen Smyers wobbles, goggleless, her eyes stinging, her time disappointing. A long 4 minutes behind Newby-Frazer. Up on the Queen K Highway, Paula Newby-Frazer is already in high gear and about to change the psychology of the women's race. Mark?
Paula didn't have a smooth transition, but that doesn't seem to have affected her. She's already settled into her typically smooth style on the bike, and she's in unusually good position. Newby-Frazer was only 6 seconds behind Wendy Ingram out of the water, Quite an improvement over last year's race when it took her over 50 miles of biking to catch Ingram. This year it's happened before Wendy's even dried off from the swim. The cushion's gone, and now suddenly comes a gruesome challenge. Attempt to stay with this supreme competitor for the next 100 miles.
Now let's join Phil Liggett, who's in the transition area.
So it's out of the ocean now and onto the open highway for the leaders of this Ironman triathlon, and of the pre-race favourites. Greg Welch has done exceedingly well. He's come out of the Pacific Ocean with a great lead over pre-race stars like Puli Kuru. Kuru now has a lot of work to do in the first 35 miles. The conditions here are already scorchingly hot. It's threatening to be the hottest marathon on record. So the race is on now. Welch has done what he wants to do. Now can Kuru catch up? Remember too, Jürgen Zach, the great bike rider, has come out just behind Kuru. And now the two together, they've got to cut down on Welch in his opening stretch.
And so the drama rolls on. Act 2, the long ride across this otherworldly landscape. Hour upon hour under a tropical sun. Morning will become afternoon. Mind and body will seek escape. A champion will somehow retain control. A 40-year-old of uncommon determination. The spirited young man from Sydney, seeking his first Gatorade Ironman victory. How will these stories end today? A scene suggesting vacation as we welcome you back to the Gatorade Ironman Triathlon. But we're leading you astray. On the highway above, Greg Welch, who once raced here like he was on holiday, but not today.
Welch just wiped away the bad times of a year ago when he watched this event perched on crutches. He's ready and fired to prove to the pretenders that he's the man to beat, as the Australian sets his sights on those who have beaten him out of the swim. Here is a man with tunnel vision.
And now Sydney passes Brisbane. Nick Croft making his first appearance in Hawaii. Here's a good day and a goodbye from the veteran Welch, who's hoping Ironman number 7 is his lucky number. On the charge, about 45 seconds behind, Pennsylvania's Ken Glaw, here to end California's monopoly of Ironman champions.
Every year for the last 5 years, Glaw has told me, when I'm out, it's his turn. Well, Ken, today the door is open.
And less than 2 minutes behind leader Welch, Dave Scott. The improbable challenge is still alive. The bullet in orange and white is Welch, whizzing by top swimmer Alec Roykasev, now number 2 and fast fading.
Welch's finger is on the trigger. After some 20 miles and about 50 minutes, his desire to lead early on is in place. The gauntlet waits to be picked up.
Puli Kuru is already nearly 4 minutes back. His race strategy is always be steady, be patient. But it's not working today, and the others are not waiting.
Jürgen Zach makes no secret about his riding ability, and he knows if he's to lead this race, it must be soon. A year ago, Zach set the bike record at 4 hours, 27 minutes. Here, he's given himself a 5 minutes handicap after the swim. But one by one, he picks them off. Puli Kuru is the first major scalp in the German sights. There can be no better inspiration than seeing race number 2 riding slower on this lonely road. Wetting his lips in anticipation, Zach will soon be forced into making a decision whether to go by Kuru and try to reach the front alone, or ride with him in the hope that together they can catch the leaders. Kuru on the right here is not riding with the same drive of previous years. Has Zach realised this? The German's chances of outrunning the Finn are slim, but outriding him, they're good, and the front runners are still 3 minutes ahead.
4th, 3rd, and 2nd the last 3 years, Kuru is assuming the logical progression will conclude with victory this year. He trusts the numbers. They rule a carefully calculated life. Summer in Valkeakoski, Finland. The most deliberate of triathletes trains on a cool, glistening lake near his rural home. And in a life so carefully measured, how about this for irony? Swimming from shore to shore, Kiru covers 2.4 miles, the exact Ironman distance.
Whenever I go out to have a run or to have a ride, I know exactly what I'm going to do. Many times I have to go back to my training to find out how did I do something 1 year ago or 2 years ago. What did I eat just before the race? How much I ate or what kind of training I did or how much I slept or things like that. So it helps to plan the next race and next season.
But as the poet said, even the best laid plans often come undone. Last season, Hawaii and the scientific racer was leading at the energy lab, 17 miles. Suddenly, unexpectedly, the tank was empty. Mark Allen surged, and clearly, Kiru was no longer a threat.
In last year, I didn't do exactly what my heart rate told me to do. So I hit the wall, and the reason to hit the wall was that I was not able to eat enough during the bike. And in that point, I knew that I'm going to be in trouble sooner or later. And it was just a matter of time when it happened.
At home, you see the fastidious notes Kiru has assembled on his rivals. Despite his troubles at the Gatorade Ironman, he's kept the faith, still running his career by the numbers. But that is not all there is to know about the man. It's not simply a life obsessed with careful training. Hidden from most is a softness inside. The father, who is a warm presence on a long summer day. A dad lavishing love on a giggling daughter.
Bobby.
Born in the land of the midnight sun, attempting to conquer Hawaii's heat, Kiru insists he has the right formula, and this is his year.
I feel so sure that, I don't know why, but I feel so confident and I don't have to look left or right. I just know that what I have right now, it's enough. It must be.
However, right now, the numbers say Kiru is still failing to make up significant ground on the leaders, and the effort to do so is draining him.
But numbers like 4-0, for example, are meaning little to Dave Scott, whose veteran status offers no consolation to Mike Pigg, who had finished the swim over a minute in front. Scott, 6 times winner and twice second, is known as the man, and the frontrunner Welsh is now only just ahead.
Leader Greg Welsh has been somewhat handicapped by an information void, but now he's joined by a messenger, Ken Glaw, who will provide him with an update on how the race is developing behind. Even in the midst of heated competition, some courtesies prevail.
Back at the pier in Kailua Kona, many of the age group racers are still in the water. The clock at just over 1 hour, 30 minutes. There's Don Wildman, the Hulk Hogan of the 60 to 64 age group. However, another senior star out in the Pacific is struggling.
Get your back now. It will move you. The current will move you fast home.
Oh, great.
Take a rest.
Lynn Edwards, the only competitor in the women's 70 to 74 age group, she discovered tennis at 55 and triathlons soon after.
From the very beginning, when I started to exercise, I think the feeling good is the thing that kept me going. I feel so much better, and some days when I'll look in the mirror and I'll say, I can't be that old, because, you know, I am, but inside I really feel good, I feel strong, and I think I've done it twice, and both times just the excitement of being here. I'll start smiling all to myself saying, hey, I'm in the Ironman. And I think it's just so exciting to be a part of this whole thing that it just makes me happy even when I'm hurting.
Like right now, Lynn Edwards now pushing to make the 2 hour, 15-minute swim cutoff. The Gatorade Ironman will continue. Wheelchair athlete Dr. John Franks with his assistants. Welcome back to the Gatorade Ironman. After squeezing out of that wetsuit, Franks will be helped into his $45,000 customized three-wheeled hand cycle. Then it's 112 miles on the sizzling highway. Arm power only. On the Queen K, leader Ken Glaw has Greg Welch in his wake. And about to make this his version of Three's company, 40-year-old Dave Scott.
Greg Welch, free of a Paulie Kiru challenge so far, is forcing the pace past Ken Glaw. Dave Scott is haunting them both just behind. Neither knows how the old chieftain feels. Welch, with a previous second and third in Hawaii, is also finding Ken Glaw as annoying as a gadfly. But Glaw is pedaling smoothly to his ideal of being among the leaders at this point. Although the pass by Dave Scott is surely unexpected and a blow to the morale of them both.
So the big question is answered. Not only is Dave Scott back, it's like he never left. This race is won as much with confidence as conditioning. And with that pass, the power of confidence has been transferred to a 40-year-old who is anything but an old bag of bones.
And behind the battle of the leading three, Jürgen Zach, the bike king, is still minutes behind and confused by the presence of a below-par Paulie Kiru. Soon, Zach must decide to forge ahead, for he knows if Kiru is on a bad day, then time for Zach will run out.
Zach by nature is aggressive, but this year he's looking to achieve a balance of power. It's a natural outgrowth for this vivacious athlete.
I'm a social guy. I like to be with two athletes, but I also like to be with other people. I don't think about triathlon all day long, and I think that gives me some strength.
Home is old Europe, Vallendar, a tiny bucolic spot in the Rhine Valley. A Disney vision, a postcard come to life. Zach has a view of it all in a splashy modern hillside home that is a reflection of who he is. He can't resist the urge to drink to himself. He's a charming but bewildered homemaker. A few moments later, still in training gear, he's on the phone, making sure he can pay the bills. Zach has a sports equipment business with customers all over Germany. You discover, as he's told you, that no one aspect of his life prevails. He makes time to play. He's seeking the balance. He manages to work, train, and have fun. It's not easy. Zach is no lonely rider. In Germany, where triathletes matter, he's a household name. Zach says it's because the sport appeals to the German soul.
I think triathlon in Germany is much more popular than triathlon is in America. Baseball and football is too big. Triathlon can't compete against these sports in America. And also, the German people see triathlon training very scientific. Everyone has his coach and everyone is following a strict program. And that's a little different to America. In America, people just train how they feel and be more social in training, and I think the Germans are more tough.
Ironman Germany is held each summer in Rott. It's become triathlon's version of Woodstock. With some in nature's upper deck, 100,000 witnessed the invigorating misty morning start. Later, many nurse a mug at an outsized table called a beer mile. This year, Germany's own excelled. An unofficial mountain bike escort took Zach into town. And relishing the adoring cheers, he crossed the finish line in the second fastest time ever for the Ironman distance. And by the way, champagne taste in Germany means a tall Hefeweizen. And the freeway is the speedway in Germany, where they do 100 miles an hour in the slow lane. And when Zach came to Hawaii last year, he turned the Queen K into his own Autobahn, a sizzling 4 hours, 27 minutes, a record for the 112 miles bike ride.
Yeah, I love it when all the guys shift gears when I pass them and they're afraid and they start shaking because they know now it's going to be painful. Being the leader, it's a big thrill.
However, Zach is stretching his horizons. He knows the Gatorade Ironman requires of all its champions a measure of patience, a balance of speed and steadiness. After breaking the bike record last year, Zach was toast. His feet were numb and he limped through a 3:06 marathon. This year, revising his training, he's looking for a complete race.
Behind Zach, a long river of racers. Most of 1,400 competitors are on the road. But back at the pier, a handful are facing disqualification. The swim cutoff is 2 hours, 15 minutes. And now comes the climax of a race within a race. Approaching the pier, each stroke now is supreme effort. 77-year-old Jim Ward, the oldest competitor, the clock conspires against him. Less than 15 seconds remain before the cutoff. However, Ward's female counterpart, the oldest female competitor, 71-year-old Lynn Edwards, has failed to meet the deadline, and her Ironman is over prematurely.
No, I'm a star. You are a star. None of us, I can't swim that far. You did a great job.
I'm a flopper.
No, you're not. You're a winner. We all love you. You did great.
It's just after 9 a.m. Jim Ward expects to be racing until midnight. We'll return after these messages. Back with you on the Kona coast of the Big Island. Dan Hicks with Phil Liggett and Mark Allen for the 18th Gatorade Ironman Triathlon. Reaching the 35-mile mark, the leaders now make the turn off the Queen K onto Route 270, the road to the island village of Hawaii.
Greg Welch, knowing his strengths usually lie in the run to follow, rummages for food. At this stage, it's imperative to eat and drink a little at a time, because hitting the wall is the constant fear later. This is turning out to be quite a battle of surprising proportion. It's Kenny Glass' turn to lead this gang of three from Scott and Welsh, while Jürgen Zach is behind in no man's land as Harvey approaches. And pre-race favourite Paulie Kiru is still not a challenger. Let's join Mark.
The man, Dave Scott, is with the boys as they turn toward Hawaii. They're beginning a 20-mile stair-step climb that winds its way into increasing winds. This is where the stronger cyclists will begin to punish the weaker riders. For many, this is where the challenge of the Ironman truly begins.
Before the start, few of the top triathletes felt that Welsh would sustain the challenge. Deep down, they hoped Dave Scott would not become a born-again champion. And for Kenny Glar, well, he's not surprising himself, but he needs a big lead. Zach has to be surprised. Still 2 minutes behind the trio, he's leaving Kiru with still more than half the bike ride to go.
Well, so much for following someone else's race strategy. Jürgen Zach tried staying with Paulie Kiru for over 30 miles, but he's obviously uncomfortable with the lead Scott, Welsh, and Glar are building. It's time to get up front and deliver a double dose of German aggravation.
Right now, in the women's race, well, it is no contest. Seeking to be the first female or male to capture 7 Ironman titles, there she is, newby-frazer. She's already built a 3-minute lead. This is how she likes it. Way out in front, setting a punishing pace, daring anyone to follow.
I race my best when I'm racing alone, just simply because I don't have to deal with somebody else's energy, and I like to set my own pace in my training, and it's the same way in races. I like to set my own pace. I'm very happy to get off front and have a 10 or 20-minute lead. It's wonderful, and when I've made the commitment, I'm coming out here to do the best job that I can. It's not a question of being out there to win 7. It's a question of going out there and trying to go faster than I've ever been before.
Without a peer, the opponent right now for Paula Newby-Frazer is the ticking clock. Though far behind the elite competitors, the clock matters too for the age groupers. And among those testing their limits on the lava fields of the 50th state is an Air Force captain from America's 49th. First-time Ironman, Alaskan Deb Foss.
Swimming 2.5 miles, biking 112, and running 26 all in one day. That just to me is the biggest challenge I think I could ever put myself to. I love it up in Alaska. It's beautiful here. I love the extreme way of life in Alaska. I have a passion for life, which I want to explore every opportunity that's out there. I went into the Air Force 9.5 years ago for the challenge of my life, and I've gotten that in the 9.5 years that I've served. And I'm ready for a completely new challenge.
Just after we visited Captain Foss, she decided to retire from the Air Force. Her next challenge, finding a home. She's torn now between 2 states, the attraction of Hawaii and Alaska.
The leaders in the men's event are now cutting their way along Highway 270. Almost 3 hours have passed since the race start, and for them, here comes trouble. Jürgen Zach, usually the early leader in the bike ride, bridges the gap. Now there are 4, with Kenny Glass still setting the pace, unaware that Zach is here.
The party's ending, boys. Zach is moving and getting treated like an uninvited guest. Dave Scott has never raced against the most feared cyclist in the sport, but he's about to sample personally a Zach attack. Welch knows the German star is probably the ingredient that will split this pack up. It may be an unsettling moment when he has to decide who to follow, Zach or those disinclined to match his pace. As for Glah, his race plan only has one requirement, to win. And if that means a duet with Zach, so be it.
After desert-like landscape, now it's lush countryside as the riders close on the turnaround at Tiny Haviv.
Jürgen Zach admits leading in the bike ride always gives him immense pleasure. But going the wrong way doesn't quite gel the same feeling. After the long chase, even this small error hurts, and now he has to recover at a time when he may have been planning to attack. A shake of the head, Zach is 10 seconds behind again, and the real turn now is on the horizon here in Haviv.
At the turnaround, here are the contenders. Welch, one of the favorites. Glah, a sleeper. Scott, a huge surprise. And a slightly perturbed Jürgen Zach. Over 60 miles to go on the bikes. We'll be right back. The Ironman, a race that leaves you naked to a unique and cruel natural equation. A withering sun above and a searing fire down below. On the Big Island, 2 active volcanoes still percolate red hot. Here, you are closer than ever to the heartbeat of the earth. On the Gatorade Ironman course, the long highway is but a thin ribbon separating an avalanche of lava soaked with the sun's heat. And as hour follows hour, the rider's enemies increase. Muscle fatigue magnified by monotony, and a road that seems to be an endless natural sauna. Mid-morning, the sun high in the sky, and the riders have reached the lava fields, the vast, eerie residue of this island's ongoing natural turbulence.
80 miles have now been covered, and the 2 riding specialists, Kenny Glah and Jürgen Zach, are pushing up the pace. It's their only chance against runners Scott and Welch. The return from Haviv must show time gains, and big ones, and they know it.
Polycure's heart monitor tells him a lot of things, but I doubt if it answers what's gone wrong today. There's an untold number of factors needed for a great race. And the frustration on Paulie's face tells us that somehow, despite all his meticulous preparation, something is missing.
A 112-mile bike ride on the lava? Well, that's nothing for the wild man. He's crossed a continent, recently a competitor in the race across America. And take our word for it, there's no geritol in that camelback.
From a wild man to the wild countryside of Hawaii, as it continues to provide the setting for one of the best Gatorade Ironman triathlons for years. The infighting by 4 men has become complicated. There are now 5. After a desperate chase, Hungarian Peter Kropko joins. But this man's supposed to be a better runner than a rider. He has also crossed the gap from Paulie Kiru's group, and he's brought a message. Confidence or bravado? Kropko is known to Zach, who beat him in Europe this year. But this is a rider Zach should be well ahead of at this stage. What is going on? Zach's moments of glory in this bike ride are so far rather few. And as the race heads towards 90 miles, things are not going as well as they could.
Peter is smiling as he easily slides past the leaders. The last time I smiled on the bike was in 1982. Kropko is the only man in the world to run a sub-240 marathon in an Ironman race. His credentials and presence have to be unsettling, as is the way he's making this surge, effortlessly. Welsh, perhaps a bit nervous, responds.
Kropko's charge now reaches the front, and his passing, though significant, doesn't appear to be noted by 30-year-old Ken Glaw of Westchester, Pennsylvania. If he follows his pre-race philosophy, Glaw won't let Kropko get very far. He told us earlier that he's had enough of top 5 performances, and this year, it's win or explode.
If I'm feeling good and I feel I have a chance, I'm going to go ahead and push it and go for the win. If it winds up meaning that, 20 miles into the run, I'm finished and I wind up, 30th in the race, then so be it. I'd rather give it that effort to try and win it than just settle for a 4th or a 5th or 6th.
Right now, Glaw's displaying the courage of his convictions. Among the front runners throughout the bike, he's cranking it near the danger zone. We'll return in a moment. For the rest of the competitors in the women's race, she is lost and not yet found. The defending and 6-time champion. Late in the bike leg, Paula Newby-Frazer, even with an enormous lead, punishes herself so as to disable any who would attempt a challenge. Newby-Frazer wants to remain invisible to Wendy Ingram, a strong cyclist who could gain confidence if only she could resume contact with a leader. And as Newby-Frazer hammers away ahead, the running talents of Karen Smyers will soon become meaningless. Some gaps, even for the swift, can be too large to close.
The men's race is heading back into Kailua Kona with 2 clear leaders. The bike specialists, Jürgen Zach and Ken Glaw, have at last found their wings. Zach is never happier than when he's leading, but this time his face shows no effort. And as he's behind his record ride of a year ago, perhaps he's planning a strong run. Swinging onto a Leahy drive, veteran Scott heads the chase from a shaky Greg Welsh. Ahead of both of them is still Peter Kropko, the constant threat to all, as he's providing the challenge no one expected at this stage.
And close to town, here's another huge surprise, Jeff Devlin from Pennsylvania. Only an average swimmer, he started the bike almost 10 minutes behind the leaders, a gap that would have virtually broken any other athlete. That he's now in contention is one of the most remarkable things I've seen here. To this point, he's averaging close to 25 miles an hour on the bike.
For Devlin, the day still holds possibilities. However, for 37-year-old Scott Tinley, a long way back, the only issue now is a respectable finish. And that will be enough for this triathlon legend, who successfully combined business with his bliss.
I'd like to think that throughout the years I've been able to achieve a certain amount of balance in my life so that I don't suffer some of the mental and psychological burnout situations that some of my peers have. If anything, I've erred on the side of maybe too much balance, and it's affected my competitiveness. But at the same time, I think I've gained a certain amount of longevity and possibly some respect from the rest of the triathlon world by just sort of sticking it out. Business it's another type of competition. It's another challenge to meet. Success in business is interesting. It's not a magical formula. It's basically being creative, having some integrity, offering something that the public wants, a bit of hard work, and developing good relationships. And fortunately, the Tinley Performance Wear line has had many of those elements over the years. Tinley Performance Wear was just a little mom and pop company that grew and grew, and we were acquired by Reebok. Fortunately, they've allowed Tinley Performance Wear to operate pretty much autonomously, and to they support us in many ways and kind of let us do our thing. I find it very fascinating, the relationship between business and sport. One is very physical and one is very cognitive, and combining the two has been fascinating over the years. When I look back at my triathlon career and specifically, at chronicling my years in the Ironman event, I think I'm lucky to have this lifestyle as a shield against those things that would create a certain amount of cynicism in me. So I try and retain that same wonder that I had the first time I went and did the race. And the bottom line is I still enjoy it. It's still a gas to go out there and just give it a whirl.
Giving it a whirl again, the only pro who's been here 15 straight years, the indomitable Scott Tinley. Now, and for as long as he lasts, a welcome presence on the lava fields.
Scott Tinley would have loved to have been part of this great battle, a fight between 5 proud men who have few equals in one of the world's toughest sporting tests. Now the bike ride is drawing to a close, and the aching back, shoulders and acute saddle soreness is about to be traded for sore calf muscles and aching feet. Over 5 hours have passed since the journey into the ocean, and the pain is not about to end here. Gentlemen, your next choice of weapons are running shoes. Let the transition begin.
Kenny Glah is first on the road. Zach is a change away. It is high noon. A minute 30 behind this threesome.
Look out, look out, look out, look out, look out, look out!
Glah extends his lead as Greg Welch sprints to the tent. Welch dresses, Kropko chugs. Zach is number 2. And Dave Scott, for the moment, number 3. Jeff Devlin zooms into focus. He's part of the picture now, too. Departing, Welch clips some portable fuel to his belly. Scott replenishes himself in transit. Glah churns deliberately. Scott confronts the early, nasty climb. Welch rambles smoothly. And And as Devlin resumes his steady charge from the rear, Glaw is a half-mile beyond, charging from the front. One contender, however, is falling further out of sight and out of mind. Welcome back to the Gatorade Ironman. And now, the race snakes into a bit of unpleasant terrain known as the pit. And on the way down, Ken Glaw applies some preventive maintenance. And the great Scott begins his third act. This is the belly of the beastly pit. And as Glaw heads out, Greg Welch enters, gliding, a bounce in his steps. Here's the competition. Zach in easy striking distance. And not even a minute behind, Scott and the rest of the Runners Club, Welch and Peter Kropko, all capable marathoners. Glaw must decide, forward or reverse. There are 24 miles left, a long way to lead alone, a long way for one man to carry this race in these conditions. The rabbits at the back continue the chase. They're where they want to be, close enough to make the leader think twice. Forward or reverse, or for Ken Glaw, is it rather now or never? Look at Welch, the fluid movement on this thigh-burning, lung-searing exit from the pit. He makes an early move. Kropko, glued to the orange day-glow figure ahead, mimics Welch step for step. Scott does not answer. There is still time for this decorated veteran. He has measured his competition in this race, and in his mind, there is no one to fear. No one. And that includes Greg Welch, who has learned, like he has, what it truly takes to tame this course.
Greg Welch certainly is an outstanding runner, but he hasn't proven it here in lava fields. I mean, he's capable of probably running an easy low 230, but he hasn't done it. I feel pretty comfortable in watching the last 5 years that the improvement in the running, there hasn't been any. None. I don't want to be brash, but I feel fairly comfortable that I'll run well under 3 hours. So I think if I can just go out there somewhat reckless on the run, they may be somewhat worried that I might be closing that gap.
Ahead on a Lee drive, Welch and Kropko have caught Jürgen Zach. Now, the supreme cyclist must compete on equal terms with runners of superior reputation.
Back in the transition area at Kona Surf, Paula Newby-Frazer is leaving little to the imagination. She's leading Karen Smyers by almost 3 miles as she arrives with a bike time of 5 hours, 2 minutes and 25 seconds. This incredible athlete and veteran of 6 wins believes in signs and is showing all of the signs of getting her record-breaking 7th win today. Unless, of course, she's done too much before the run begins.
The men are at 9 miles, about an hour into the run. Greg Welch is leaving the security of the applause and heading out into the nakedness of the lava. The painful change from fantasy to reality, pretender to champion, that's what lies ahead. All within a minute are the remaining challengers. It seems Ken Glaw is beginning to suffer from the weight of his do-or-die strategy. And though Dave Scott is 30 seconds behind Welch, he knows better than any the rawness that lies ahead. As for Jürgen Zach, a more conservative bike ride hasn't helped. The heat is still his ultimate foe, and he's fading. And the day has claimed its first contender, Peter Kropko, now in the medical tent.
And now in his 7th appearance here, Greg Welch faces his moment of truth, the heart of the marathon, where in the past, his race has often come apart. Here he was 2 years ago, at the same point, halted by stomach pains. Later, Welch revealed that only 2 weeks before, he had been through a minor operation to repair a problem with dehydration.
Keep a real tight eye on you over the next couple of minutes, and we'll be right behind you with the van, okay? No worries. All right, hang in there.
6th in 1992, there was no race last year. He was hit by a car while training, causing major knee damage, so he came to Kona only to observe.
I learned to watch other people, their movements, what they're going through, the expressions, their breathing rhythm, everything. I just learned that I have to be patient. I'm not here for a joke. I'm here on business. Okay, I've got a job to do. I want to take this one home. I want to package it up, take it home, unwrap it when I get home and say, this is what the last 6 months has been all about.
He's been called a beer-loving gnome, an adult Mickey Mouse. But Greg Welch of Sydney, Australia, and Encinitas, California, claims to be a changed man. And now he can almost taste his destiny.
High noon has already passed, but in a silence broken only by the rasping breath, Dave Scott ensnares Kenny Glar. There is still time, plenty of time, for the six-time winner to make it 7 at 40. Welsh, a runner Scott believes capable of doing 2 hours 30, now has fear to contend with. The fear of knowing the man is just 20 seconds back. He's an arm's length away, but has he the reach to narrow the generation gap?
In another race, another place, John Franks also is facing a moment of truth. He must reach the transition point by 5:30, but he is swimming in the midday heat, many, many miles away. A rocky, forbidding beach fronts the grounds of a government science facility. Here, technicians investigate new energy sources. It is here, too, in this barren valley, that historically this race is won and lost. Only 2 years ago, it was here that Greg Welch lost it all, was reduced to a walking mess. And it will be here where we will find out if at last performance will match long-held promise. 9 Ironman starts, 6 victories, never worse than second, never a collapse. But he is 40. His last race 5 years ago. The margin is a mere 12 seconds. Now would be the time for the knockout punch. Welch looks the better of the two. His gait even, strong, confident. It is near 100 degrees, the humidity murderous. They have been racing for 7.5 hours. He may not have much left, but he will hold on. Slowly at first, the gap opens. The 29-year-old Australian has not wilted or wavered. Now, he's making his move, testing the man 11 years his senior. And there is no response. Suddenly, 12 seconds has become a minute. He has shaken the man, the 6-time champion.
Holly Kiru is a lifetime behind Welsh, nearly 45 minutes. Off comes the heart monitor. His race is done. The man ruled by his watch now runs on pride. In the face of disaster, he persists for a reward only he can understand.
And as one champion falters, another rules, although Paula Newby-Frazer is not running as well as she rode. Times throughout the day have been generally slower, and Paula's thoughts now should not be on a 3-hour run, but rather on surviving, and hang on to the time gained. Her lead of almost 3 miles over Karen Smyers at the run start is reduced to less than 2, with Smyers ad-libbing her way to the best run of the day. Not even Karen, though, expects to catch Paula.
Greg Welch has never run this race this far without an incident, but it seems this run will finally be complete. And so, our answer seems apparent. He will be the one to emerge from Mark Allen's shadow and Dave Scott's. Just miles to go, he only needs to retain his focus, keep control of his emotions.
Jurgen slowed it down on the bike, and you could say it paid off. He's moved up 1 place from last year. One last sip and a final glance over his shoulder for reassurance. Here's the new Greg Welch. He promised us patience and a win, and he's making good on both statements. A miracle ride brought Jeff Devlin back into the hunt. The adrenaline of closing that chasm has carried him into third.
A half mile to go. Now the face brightens. The celebrating can begin. For the first time, the men's division will be won by an athlete outside the 50 states. The father of two. He went into seclusion for 6 weeks just before the race. He left his family. He made this mission meaningful. He won his first triathlon in 1987, a small race in Bangor, Australia, a beachside Sydney suburb. Now, finally, the show belongs completely to him. A 2.4-mile swim, 112 miles on the bike, a marathon. At long last, Greg Welch has conquered Hawaii. The embrace comes from his wife, triathlete Sean Williams. The beer will gush tonight. The party will be dangerous. This star-crossed, too often carefree Aussie has won the ultimate race of his sport. Back on the final quarter mile, the 40-year-old who pushed Welch for over 8 hours on the lava fields is getting his own winner's reception. Ahead at the finish line, let's go to Phil Liggett.
Greg, many congratulations. What a difference a year makes.
Yeah, you know, I ran the whole way, and that was my aim. And I think that's what, you know, it takes to win the race. I tell you what, I'm so happy. I could give up right now, and I'd be so happy, you know, to walk away from the sport. I only wanted to win one of these, and I've done it.
Greg, you can't walk away now. It took Mark Allen 7 attempts, and this is number 7 for you, and you're the winner.
Yeah, that's right. I just want to win plenty more now.
But Greg, I'll tell you what, Dave Scott, he was in your shadow for so long. Did you think he might make a final run at you?
Oh, that guy's awesome, man. I'm telling you what, 40 years old, I still want to get beat by the guy, you know. He's awesome. He really is. He's what kept me going. He's my, you know, he was my inspiration like halfway through the race. It's like I can't walk, you know. If I walk, he's going to pass me, and, you know, all I thought about was just staying ahead of him. He was so strong, man. He's unbelievable.
Many congratulations.
Thank you very much.
On Ali'i Drive, the winner of 6 Ironmans will finish second, and in the doing, enhance what was already a sterling reputation. His time is 35 minutes faster than the previous record by a 40-year-old. And for the first time, sons Ryan and Drew actually see their father complete the toughest day in sports.
Well, Dave, they got to be proud of their dad today. 8 hours, 24 minutes.
So here's the Gatorade Ironman men's finish. Devlin, after a poor swim, charges all the way to third. Germany is 4 and 5, and Ken Glah, who came here to win, couldn't hold his pace on the run and slid to 9th. Let's go back to Phil Liggett.
Dave, many congratulations. 7 years on, second again, but the emotions now are a bit different, aren't they?
Well, I should say so. I mean, it was just a real personal victory for me. Second place today beats them all, really. Just a fabulous race for me.
Now, I know you went away and did your private training again, but did you actually think you were going to put up such a performance today?
I honestly didn't know. I just didn't have the background going into the race. I felt awfully strong, but I had a 5-year hiatus, and I just, I didn't know what to expect. And once I got on the bike, I got in a good rhythm, and it moved up right away in the front, and gave me a lot of confidence on the bike, and that just sort of escalated. And I thought, gee, I get to the run. Who knows?
An early Father's Day on the Big Island. Back with more from Hawaii after these words. Back at the 1994 Gatorade Ironman and the medical tent, where Greg Welch is refreshed after an IV to replace lost fluids. Still on the course, women's leader Paula Newby-Frazer, fighting the elements, doing everything possible to stay cool and hydrated in Hawaii's mid-afternoon heat.
Throughout the day, more than 4,000 volunteers provide Gatorade and water to Ironman competitors with the fluency of a well-trained relay team. Also this year, aid stations have nutritional supplements such as Gator bars, a fruit and grain energy bar for carbohydrates, and Reload, a gel which replaces glycogen and replenishes the blood sugar levels. With many burning more than 6,000 calories during this unique endurance event, a plan for keeping fueled and comfortable is vital.
Now the women's race is about to be decided. Newby-Frazer is making the turn onto Ali'i Drive, where she'll be propelled for the last quarter mile by curb-to-curb sound.
This was a champion's day, a race that was within her grasp almost as soon as it began. A champion who punished herself in the early morning hours so as to weaken the will of the hopefuls who fell further and further behind. A champion who knew the price of her acts, but who knew there would be no victory without, once again, deep personal and emotional sacrifice. You look into the abyss, but you are a champion, and you move on.
Newby-Frazer, about to do what no man or woman has ever done in this race. She's about to become a champion for the 7th time. What will it take to beat this woman? Someone who can match her supreme effort, her willingness to leave a piece of herself on the hot, killing lava fields of the Big Island. So the Gatorade Ironman standings for the women, a tough day for all. That's Newby-Frazer's slowest time here since 1990. And we also wonder, will she be back for more? Karen Smyers had the fastest marathon, but was handicapped early by a difficult swim. Let's go back to the finish line and Phil Liggett.
Paula, the first athlete, man or woman, to win 7 times, but it doesn't get any easier, does it?
From Calgary, Canada. Joel Wilkinson, he was third at Ironman Canada earlier this year.
Today was getting the job done. That's all it was.
Out there, you looked as though you suffered the whole way around.
I had some bad stretches on the bike, but then I had some very good stretches. I had a really rough stretch the first 8-9 miles on the run. I got out on the highway. I got to the aid station, I walked. For a couple minutes, I talked to myself. I pulled myself together. I said, you can do it. Just put one foot in front of the other. And I don't know. I put one foot in front of the other and I got here. I can't believe it. I really can't.
Holly Kuru, defeated but not broken. He will finish. Scott Tinley also holds the Ironman's creed: fight, finish. Think of it, powering an upside-down bicycle 112 miles. John Franks at the edge of exhaustion, nearing the 5:30 deadline. Training through the cold days, frigid waters, Alaska soldier Deb Foss, the amateur athlete displaying world-class effort. He doesn't need this, but he does. The wealthy, retired businessman, Don Wildman. A child's heart, a man's courage. But for some, even though the mind says yes, the body says no more. And then this, at the finish, instant collapse, like the flick of a switch. Some can still pause to cherish the moment. Or or even end the longest of races with the question of a lifetime. John Franks, the first wheelchair athlete. He's raced 111 miles on the lava through the heat. 5:30 minutes away, 1 mile. He must begin the marathon by the 5:30 deadline. But this is what 10.5 hours looks like. This is what it has done to him. The deadline passes. Franks fails. Race officials offer to let him continue. He says firmly, no.
All people in chairs want us to be treated just like everybody else, and I'm of the mind if I don't do this course just like everybody else, I don't do this course.
Day becomes night. The Ironman's creed prevails. Fight. Finish. This is the other race, the other Ironman. Night on the desolate Queen K Highway. No spectators, no shouts of encouragement, no fanfare for the common man or woman. For those on the course armed with glow sticks as a precaution, they work their way deliberately. Most of them in great pain from aid station to aid station. The finish line is still miles away, but the idea of it, the thought of completing this leap of faith, that's how they march on. That's how they find the courage to persist on a dark, lonely highway. For so many, it is ending as it begins. It is ending in darkness. Through the night of doubt, these lonely bands, they are still marching to the promised land. 8 seconds from elimination in the swim, another deadline looms for Jim Ward. Midnight at the pier. This is when the idea becomes a reality. The finish line, hands to hug you in their warmth. This glorious, glowing end to your leap of faith. Congratulations, Deb Foss. Isn't finishing here an unofficial Medal of Honor? And Don Wildman, teaching 8 grandchildren what it is to love life and pursue endlessly the joy of extreme challenge. In the other Ironman, they trickle homeward. These final competitors, possessed of an uncommon spirit, a burning resolve, defying age, defying doubt, conquering pain, conquering night.